Hello, hello. Hi, Haida. Hey, Spiros. Hey, Bell. Thanks for liking it even before it started. Good morning, JNB. Hi, Ola. How are you doing? Hey, Mike. Hi, MC. How are you doing? I'm just trying to sort out a couple of things, so just give me a second and just let me know if you can hear me okay, if things is working all right. Haven't had the chance to tweak it too much. So for now. So yeah, let me know if it sounds okay. Hey Chiwan, how are you doing? Hey Stefan, good to see you here. A couple of minutes before we get started. Fantastic, thanks for that, Val. Thanks, Jimmy. Just trying to make sure everything works okay. 2 more minutes and we shall get going. Markets shot down a little bit, bounced back up. No big trades so far. Had a couple of scalps. Been running around for the whole day, in and out of the office. That's why we had to delay it for a couple of hours. So good to see you guys still tuning in despite the delay. Hey Nick, how you doing? Hey, take calculated risk today. Right. One minute before we get started, if you haven't already, do click on that like and subscribe button. On YouTube, do click on that little rocket ship button and follow me on TradingView. I think we are also streaming on Twitch and on other platforms. Again, if you are on the other platforms, do drop a message, say hi, let me know that it's working. I just can't log into everything to make sure that it works. So, and I still haven't got my Twitch link in case someone nearby is going to start asking for my Twitch link. And also, I forgot to do the US dollar Indian rupees yesterday, so I'll do that. I can't remember who was asking for it. I hope you're still tuning in. I hope you catch that. Hey Diana, how are you doing? Sorry about that on TradingView. Literally forgot to turn on the mic and the camera. So now it's on. Basically, it was just saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. So you haven't missed that much yet. But thanks for letting me know. Take calculated risk. There I am. Okay, are we good? Let's see, so suddenly it's just too many things to deal with. I've got OBS, I've got Restream, I've got TradingView, I've got all kinds of things. But I will get the hang of this and we shall be good to go. Alright, so let's get started now that we are all online. We are possibly all good to go. Again, thank you all for joining me on this slightly delayed session, the daily market analysis. What we do here is look at the fundamentals, look at the news. We did have a couple of PMI data releases, didn't move prices a bit, but no clear directional change. Then we'll look at the technical analysis. We look at where price is, where price could head towards, forming that trade setup for potentially, maybe some trades for tonight. I'm still not 100% sure that we're going to see clear directions. I think it's still going to be choppy. All right, so I think for now trades should be relatively shorter term than usual, just because we're not seeing any clear directional buyers for now. All right. Hey Goju, how you doing? Good morning, Angel Case. Hey Jennings, good to see you. And also Kelvin, good to see you here. All right, so at any point in time, if you have any trading related questions, put them into the chat. Let me know any particular pairs that you'd like me to look at. Put it into the chat, let me know as well. I did miss out one yesterday, so we do a recap on that. Okay, if you are new to this session, please remember that, two things. Please remember to click that like, subscribe button on TradingView and on YouTube as well. And also drop a message, say hi, let me know that you're here, let me know where you're joining us from, especially if you're new to the session, new to the stream. And also the link is there for you guys who haven't already joined the trading community. You're missing out. You are missing out. Someone, I can't remember who, commented that it's very different, the trading community that we have. We do look at a little bit more of a stable approach, more H1, H4, not the crazy scalping, no crazy martingales or grid kind of trading. All right, so do make sure you join the trading community, because that's where we take it beyond this 1 hour session. The discussion continues on, the discussion keeps going as we look into how price moves, any other opportunities. There was a fake news last night where there was news that there was an explosion at the Pentagon. It was fake news. We saw a big spike down on the US yen, particularly on the US yen, but then it quickly recovered back. Okay, so good to be in that group if you haven't already, just to get updated in terms of opportunities, in terms of the news that's happening. And also I'll be sharing with you what I look at or what opportunities I come across. All right, MC, I will do the USD Indian rupees. Is actually in a range. It's actually quite interesting there. Okay, hey Ayakame, good morning, good to see you here. So let's get started. As usual, a quick disclaimer: any information contained on this webinar should not be construed as advice and is presented as educational material only. The contents of this webinar is not intended to be a recommendation to trade a financial product, so please do your own due diligence before you jump into any trades. Please make sure that it fits with your own trading strategy, your own risk profile as well. Okay, because your objectives, well, all our objectives is to make money, but it is also to do it through good trade setups, right? You don't want to do it through crazy risk management, or you don't want to do it through crazy ways of trading. There are many ways to make money, but we want to do it in a more consistent approach, a more stable approach, just so that we trade with a little bit less emotion, we trade with a little bit more management. Okay, so your objectives, financial situation and needs has not been considered, and you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. So with that, also what I would like to remind everyone is that I do look at trades on the look for setups during this stream on the H1 time frame, particularly because we do this stream every day. So it's really something that we're looking as a trade for now, all the way through to the next time we speak, which is ideally 3 p.m. GMT plus 8. So for that short intraday kind of trade, and then we do a review and a readjustment the next day. Okay, you can also still apply this approach, right? How this approach in terms of looking at the fundamentals, then looking at the technicals, the trend, the support resistance levels. You can apply this method on the H4 time frame. You can apply it on the H1, M15, all the different time frames. It is an approach that is quite flexible, but you do need to understand, the fundamentals, be up to date with fundamentals. You do need to watch the charts and see how it reacts to those levels. Okay, good morning, Jamil. Good to see you here. So with that, let's get into it. Looking at the news first. Yesterday, since we spoke, nothing has happened in terms of news, in terms of proper news. Bank holiday in Canada, Euro consumer confidence numbers came out relatively unchanged. The big surprise was that fake news, like I was telling you, right? If I scroll right down, where is it? There we go. Large explosion near the Pentagon complex in Washington, D.C. caused a big reaction in terms of price on the especially on the US yen. I noticed that in particular because right after I closed my trade, it started to retrace a little bit and then had a big shoot down. I was like, wait, what's happening? Right, so we saw the news, but then the major news sources or news platforms didn't report that, came out as a no, seems like it was a fake news, right? So we saw a quick recovery in the yen and in the dollar as well. So that was the one big thing that happened last night. And also you can see the discussion, the politics in the debt crisis, the US debt crisis, debt ceiling crisis is still going on. No deal, right? No deal. President Biden came out and said that he could invoke clause 14, if I'm not wrong, but one of the clauses in the Constitution where it would force the Congress to raise the debt ceiling. That's all right now still politics. That's why we're on the dollar index front. Since yesterday, since we spoke yesterday, it's at 3 p.m. It's really had no clear direction, but it is moving up slowly, right? So we were saying that it's going to climb up to that 103.60 level gradually. It is doing that, and actually, if you notice, if I just drag this right up, it is following along this upward trend line that has started, or that was started since the 10th of May. So beginning of the month pretty much went up, and then we've seen it push to the upside. It is still trading right along that trend line. Okay, so apart from that, no big news since yesterday. ECB not done raising rates, should keep them high, coming from a member there, but not having that big impact on the euro dollar. Thank you, Ayakame. Ayakame to say he loves the new design. Thank you. Trying to still tweak it, see how we can make it better. So for today, what we actually had was the PMI numbers, right? A whole bunch of PMI numbers. French manufacturing and services PMI. Services came out a little bit lower than expected. It was a 56.3, revised down to 54.6. Forecasted 54, came out 52.8. Slight downward shift. German manufacturing PMI down to 42.9. That's a little bit concerning, down to 42.9, but services at that 57.8, so again a slight increase there. So it's all a mixed bag. It's red and green numbers. It's some manufacturing is still in that contractionary phase. Services is still in that expansionary phase. Not a big change in terms of the numbers there. The Eurozone flash manufacturing PMI in that 44.6 in that contractionary phase. Do you guys know why? Under 50 is considered as contractionary. Over 50 is considered as expansionary. Okay, so services PMI, flash services PMI for the Eurozone is at 55.9. Slight increase or slight slight increase in that expansionary phase, right? So what happened here with this whole series of data being released on the euro dollar, we didn't see, right? So at 3 p.m. all we saw was the euro shot down all the way down to 1.0785, rebounded back up, tried to go down again, rebounded back up, and now showing another push to the downside. Okay, so the view still holds. I'll update you more on that. With that, then we saw at 4:30 GMT plus 8, the pound or the UK manufacturing PMI numbers was a 46.6, revised up to a 47.8. Expected 47.9, came out at 46.9. Similar, services PMI dropped from a 55.9 down to a 55.1. Small tweak, small slowdown in that expansionary phase. This one is a small slowdown in a contractionary phase. What we saw on the pound dollar was that downward push. So at 4 o'clock, we saw a big push to the downside. Now again pushing lower, continuing for that downward push. All right. All this move is really driven by what you see on the dollar index as it continues to climb. As it continues to climb, likely back to that 103.60 level. Hey Farouk, how are you doing? Okay, so that was all the news that we've had. Right now, actually, we do have the monetary policy report hearings. Typically, it does have some impact, or it will have some impact on, there you see, to testify on interest rate outlook. All right, so it should be streaming, if I'm not wrong. Let me just double check. Yeah, it should be streaming, but we're not going to go through that stream right now. It does take a couple of hours for that as it happens, but we will be looking out for any possible headlines. I think that what's likely to happen for this is we might see some of that downside continue for the pound dollar. All right. And then later on tonight, we do have the US flash manufacturing PMI and also the flash services PMI. Again, very similar to what we saw on the euro and also on the pound, was that we might see a brief push and then that quick retrace again. So you see that manufacturing PMI for the US is likely to go from a 50.2 down to 50. I think we might even see this break below 50. So we might see manufacturing PMI go from expansionary just slightly into the contractionary phase. And then for the flash services PMI, 53.6, expected 52.6. We might see it still stay at 50. I don't think it will drop enough to break below 50. Okay, so it looks like it might be bad news here for the US. It might be bad news here for the US in terms of the PMI numbers, but with that said, what will probably happen on the dollar index front is that it might test this 103.50 level like that. It might test, come back down, and then continue back up again to where we've expected around this level, right around that 103.60 level. I think that until we get some significant resolution on the debt ceiling crisis, we're not likely to see big significant moves on the dollar index, right? But of course, while saying that, then we might actually see this break and get up to 104. But I think that for now, we might see it getting capped at that 103.60 level. Yep. Okay. Then with that, the next thing to pay attention to, just to remind you guys, is that we do have the RBNZ with the interest rate decision early tomorrow morning, very early for some of you guys, 10 a.m. GMT plus 8. It is likely to go from a 5.25% to a 5.5%. A 25 basis point rate hike expected to come from the RBNZ. Main thing to pay attention to is what are they going to say in the rate statement. I think that we could see some upside on the Kiwi dollar. Right now it is trading slightly lower, but I think that it's retracing for some potential rebound back to the upside. All right, and then the CPI I'll tell you about as we get into that. Oh, that's interesting. That's really interesting that at 2 p.m. CPI, they're expecting it to go from a 10.1 to an 8.2. Quite a big drop. Quite a big drop considering that CPI or inflation growth in the UK has been very sticky to that 10% level. So it looks like they're anticipating a big retrace or big correction to the downside. All right. I'll do a bit of research into this. I'll do a bit of analysis into this. I'll update you guys in the community, so do stay tuned for that. Okay, that's coming up for tomorrow just before our live stream. So coming back into what we could look out for today, dollar index pushing up, might retrace back down a little bit before pushing to that 103. I think that it is still going to hold in that similar fashion. Okay, so dollar index to recover or to continue trading higher, could consolidate along 103.6 with resistance at 104. Okay, I'm not ruling out, as much as I think that it could come up here, bounce around this level, I'm not going to rule out the chance that it could push up to that key resistance level of 104. All right. So with that said about the dollar, anticipating that push to the upside, then looking, ooh, that's interesting on the pound dollar. Okay, looking at the Kiwi dollar, we were looking for this to come down, to trade down, bounce off this level. Let me just take this away for now. All right, this trade that we identified yesterday didn't happen. Right, didn't trigger yet. Move it right across, didn't trigger yet, but I think that it could have that potential today. Right, so all I would do right now is to drag it right across. I would say that maybe to be a little bit more conservative, so maybe about 6255. Take profit will be about 30 pips. Stop loss maybe about 20 pips, or 1:1.5 to the downside there on the Kiwi dollar. Right, a little bit tight in terms of the take profit, but also because we do have this trend line that's tested on the 13th, well, started on the 13th, tested on the 18th, and then now possibly going to come down. So what I'm looking for here is, for now, Kiwi dollar to trade down, possibly into tomorrow morning with the RBNZ possibly increasing rates by 25 basis points. We could see a bounce back up. So how it look like in a two trade scenario, might want to consider that, is a downside move for now, and then maybe a buy off this support level 6235, so about 6235, take profit 50 pips, stop loss 20 for the rebound back up with that news release. Alright, so first trade to the downside, and then possibly early tomorrow morning we might see it bounce back up. Might not go all the way to the 50, might come all the way about 30. You're still looking at a trade down and a rebound up. Okay, but I would go for 50, maybe even 60 pips. Then after that, if it does bounce up and test that 6260 level, might want to close out or see how it's a strength and then hold on for that 60 pips. Okay, this might be a trade. This trade to the upside might be something that I'll look at, and possibly for myself I might even enter before the news just to try and catch that move. Slightly higher risk, but something I would consider for myself. So it's up to you what kind of risk profile you have. But first off, 6255, 20 pip stop loss, 30 pip take profit. 6255, 20 pips and 30 pips. Very tight there on the Kiwi dollar to the downside. I would add in there RBNZ rates decision due pending. Okay, so for those of you who you're not going to be up at 10 a.m. GMT plus 8, but it's still super early for some of you guys, you might definitely want to close out that trade before the news decision tomorrow morning. Hey M leader, no, you're not too late. We only pretty much just started, so all good, all good. Okay. Then next up is the Aussie dollar. Look at that. Aussie dollar did not trigger. So as much as it shows there, it did not trigger. If you did get into that trade, you would be in the money right now. You'll be in the money right now. If you didn't get into that trade, then I would say maybe a little bit late, unless you went into the M15 or the M5 or the M1 time frame to trade it down to this 0.66 level. Remember, 0.6605 or 0.66 is that round number level. I think that it could hold quite strong. Okay, and also if I drag this right across, you can see that the last time it came down here, it bounced quite strongly. Again, bounce back up. I think that we might see this trade down and then maybe bounce back up again. All right, might not go all the way back up. Yeah, well, okay, there might get up to that 50% level, so might come back up to around that resistance level. If you really had to trade onto the Aussie dollar, I would say that if you really had to force a trade, I wouldn't be looking to sell it down, right? Just because it's 20. Why I'm talking about selling it down is just following that trend to the downside. I think what you need to see is this might be a counter trend opportunity. You need to see what happens at this 0.66 price level. Look for that reaction along this price level. If it does test this level and bounce as a counter trend, you could be looking at 6610, a bit safer at 6615. 20 pip stop loss, I would say this 15 pip stop loss, 20, almost 30 pip take profit might be something. Even if you did 40 pips could be a counter trend trade that you look for. So 20 pip stop loss. No, I want it tighter. So I'll say 15 pip stop loss, 40 pip take profit for it to rebound back up. Right, just looking at the way that price is moving, it could come back up to that trend line before turning back down again. Okay, so counter trend trade idea here on the Aussie dollar. Okay, so Aussie, I'm looking at this as a counter trend. We could buy at 0.66115, stop loss 15, take profit 40. 6615, stop loss 15, take profit 40. Okay, remember again, big thing that it is a counter trend idea. Okay, Jamil asking for the CAD yen. I'll get to that. Yeah, I think it's going to go down, but you know, don't try and trade it down unless you're going to scalp. I did have a quick trade there to the downside, but then yeah, it might bounce off this level. Okay, US yen. So this was the one that I was talking about last night. Did get into that trade. I closed out my trade at about that level, so about 40 something pips. I think slightly high, about 42, 43 pips there. Close out the trade. So if you, I think Jan B got into that trade as well. Anyone else got into that trade, let me know on the US yen. Why I got out at that level was really because of that point there, right? And also I was looking at that being outside of Bollinger, so I closed out of my trade. So you know, that's why I did that. Then right after I closed out, it started showing some downside, and then bam, straight down to test 138 before bouncing, recovering very quickly. This was that fake news on the explosion near the Pentagon, right? Straight away recovered back up, failed, you know, still continued a little bit to the upside, but failed to really break any higher. Got as high as 138 almost 138.90, and then after that now trading back down. MC, I did close before the news, not because I knew the news. I closed out really because of a technical reason. Also Bollinger and that previous high there. So it was just a little bit fortunate that I got out, right? Purely, I would say at that point, despite the technical reasons, it was quite lucky as well. Okay. Then looking at this, so we can take this away because that's off already. And then we have this trend line holding prices. Okay, so what's interesting now is that although we are seeing the dollar index pushing to the upside, showing some upside potential, and in fact over the last couple of hours has been trading higher, the US yen hasn't reflected that, right? Hasn't reflected that. In fact, it's been pushing to the downside. So I think that what we could see is that it would either come down here and bounce, or it's showing some bounce now, or a fake break and then a bounce back up. Okay, so what I would be looking for, it's at that point. So if I show you an H4 time frame, right, it is at that point where it's slowly forming that double top. Right, it's slowly forming that double top, which is getting me a little bit concerned, and also that beyond this point, it is seems quite clear to the upside. Might be a little bit risky, right? Because you're buying right at the top, right? You're buying right at the top. I think that you could take on a little bit of risk. No, okay, what you should do here is look for it to push down and then bounce back up. Then either the little bit riskier ones would be looking to buy it up from 138.20, all right, 66 to that near term high is about 60 pips. Stop loss, you can keep it at about 30. You're looking at 1 to 2 to the upside. Then if it breaks past that point, I would target 140. I don't think you'll get there tonight, but I think it could be somewhere in the middle. So it'll be like this. Once it goes back up, then you could buy it up. The little bit of a more risk adverse will be to look for that break of that high, right? So to look for this, a break of this area, which is also this point here. So you could do that trade as it pushes up, could be pushing up right now, or you could be looking for a buy from this point up. I wouldn't want you to buy here. 30 pip stop loss, 30 pip. I don't think it's worth doing that because it's still a little bit undecided at this point. I would say that if it does push up strongly, if it breaks past that high, then you could be looking for that upside potential. Maybe 139. 139. Take profit. 80 pips. Stop loss. 20, 25 pips to the upside. All right, how do you like that one on the US yen? I think it's not likely to retrace. I think it's going to push up, finally catching on that reaction on that dollar strength. So I don't think it's going to do that. I think that, wait for it to break past that high, 139, 25 pip stop loss, 80 pip take profit. And I've actually been doing quite well on the US yen, so I'm actually trying to keep that run going. 139, stop loss 25, take profit 80. Okay, no MCR, I'm 100% sure that I got out of the US yen. It was technical reasons, but it was also very lucky, not skill at all. Couldn't have told that fake news was going to get released. Okay, so with that, then we looked at the US yen, we looked at the Aussie dollar, looking at a pound dollar now. I think that someone was asking previously was that, is it going to bounce off this 1.2391 level? It didn't do that pattern, and in fact with the way it's pushing now, I just want to catch whether there's any headlines here. Why is it not clicking? Inflation has turned the corner, so that's quite interesting. So that supports the view for tomorrow's expectation for a big drop in terms of the, why doesn't it let me click that button? Right, inflation has turned the corner. That's why they're forecasting it to go from 10 to 8%, and that's also why we're seeing that big drop on the pound dollar. Inflation dropping is where it's going to signal that the Bank of England, the BOE, could pause on further rate increases. That's why we're seeing it drop. Good thing is that there is 20 minutes to the close of the hour. it is right outside Bollinger. You can see that every time it's right outside, it bounces straight back up. I think that it's going to be in a similar move this time. It's going to bounce back up, right? It's going to close. It's going to probably bounce back up within the next 20 minutes and then might continue down again, given that we're expecting the dollar to strengthen. So with that, then I would say that you could be looking for a sell down 1.2390, stop loss 20 pips, take profit 35 pips. It's not big moves because we're very close to that support level. Okay, your support levels, where is it derived from? The orange lines. It's okay, support and resistance levels that I highlight, it's really derived from swing levels, right? Big swing levels, you see it come down, test this level, bounce, test this level and bounce. That's why I would have my support level there. You could put it all the way down there, but what I consider when I'm having it here is that it does test only 1 point. So I have it up here where it tests 2 points, makes it a little bit stronger. Okay, so pound dollar 1.2390. Stop loss could even be a little bit tighter, could be about 15, especially if it closes like that. Okay, I'm just wary that it's going to bounce. Right, I'm just worried that it's going to bounce. I would like to see it bounce and show some downside potential, and then for that move lower. Okay, so 1.2390. All right, now it's just that when it's moving, you know, I just anticipate that bounce. Okay, so 1.2390, stop loss 15, take profit 35. Sell 1.2390, stop loss 15, take profit 35. Okay, there we have it. Then with that, we look at the pound yen, because that was something that I thought was going to be quite interesting. I did focus on that a lot, right? But what happened last night, or rather yesterday, was that instead of breaking that support level, it pushed up, right? It pushed up, so it's still a waiting game. It is back at that same level, pretty much that same level that we looked at yesterday. It does still need to break below this confluence of levels for that big counter trend to the downside. It could happen even more so now if that pound dollar does continue trading lower. So I would still maintain that view for the pound yen, right? I'll still maintain this view to sell below 171, stop loss 50, take profit 100. Hey Hungry Foodie, hey Ben, how you doing? Okay, so looking for that push to the downside. Yeah, on the pound yen. Then euro dollar is a live, or would be a live trade right now. Okay, if you haven't got into it already, wait a moment, wait for that 15 minutes, let it rebound back up, but I'll still be looking to sell at that 1.0785 level, right? If it closes around this point, I think it's going to bounce back up a little bit before trading down. I'm still looking for the downside on the euro dollar, still maintaining that view. Okay, so still holding, sell 1.0785, stop loss 50, take profit 60, hesitation at that 1.0750 level. I'll show you here on the M15 time frame that it is showing some rebound, a slight rebound or slight retrace back up. All right, and this is now 5:45 p.m. GMT plus 8, so I think that we're going to see this possibly trade up a little bit. Close of the hour could look to sell this down on the euro dollar to the downside. M leader. I got fully recovered from yesterday's CAD Swiss franc yen trade from pound yen this morning, also up 1%, burst into tears. Fantastic. Hey, burst into happy tears. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. Okay, so maintaining this view on the euro dollar for the downside. Does need to retrace a little bit, but I think this will be a good downside potential. Then looking at the euro yen, right? We had that head and shoulder pattern. It got invalidated. It was invalidated because of it breaking past that. So I'll take that away. Same thing, if you didn't get into that point, not something I monitored closely. So if you didn't get into that point, would still have to wait for it to break that support for that downside. Very similar to what I was saying yesterday, comparing between the pound yen and the euro yen. I do prefer the pound yen. Meanwhile, I just did the pound yen. Same view, still looking for it to break below this confluence of Fibonacci, previous swing lows, and a round number support level. Okay, still waiting. Then I've got Aussie yen from Spiros and also CAD yen from Jamil. Okay, so now that we've done the Aussie dollar, expecting it to come down a little bit before possibly bouncing back up. The US yen looking for that bounce off that trend line to the upside. Then looking at the Aussie yen, we said this on Monday, going to come down, bounce and trade down. I like that it tested that resistance. Unfortunately, I didn't spot it. I didn't spot this move at that resistance. I would have loved to sell, not sold. I would have loved to sell at this level back down just because of that previous reaction here, right? So for me, if I'm looking at a trade, I'll be like, oh, it hit this level and rejected. If it comes up, hit this level and shows a rejection, I'll be looking for the big downward move. Missed out on that, was a little bit too busy today. Now trading to the downside, right in the middle of the range. I would say a safer entry would be for it to break past that point. I'm just considering whether I want to suggest that you could be selling past this previous low. Right? Let me just test something. 38.2 is there. So if you want to be a little bit aggressive on the Aussie yen, you could be looking to sell at about 9130. Right? If it breaks below that 38.2 fib level, stop loss maybe about 20 pips, take profit, could come down to 60-70 pips to the downside, that previous swing low cluster there. But also remembering that this is a little bit riskier because we are looking for it to break that trend line, right? But I think that if it does break that trend line, it could come down quite strongly. For this to come down, it would mean that the Aussie would most likely have to trade to beyond this 0.66, might come down to 6580. Right, you might be looking at some further downside on the Aussie dollar. Aussie yen short is something I wait for. Good. I think it's a good opportunity, but does need a little bit of a wait, a pause and a wait, some patience there. Okay, then I've done the US yen, but I'll do a quick recap on that later on. CAD yen. Okay, I'll do Swiss franc next. US Swiss franc. Thanks for that. JNB, it is pushing up. It's moving. It dropped a little bit more than we expected, so we wanted it to bounce off this trend line to push up. This would be a live trade if you saw it yet from, if you had an order from yesterday. If you haven't, or if you didn't, then I think wait for the candle to close. I do use the Bollinger Bands quite a bit, right? So wait for the candle to close. I would say I like that it's reacting or bouncing off that 0.9 level, 9010. 9010. Stop loss can be 30 pips, take profit 50 pips to the upside, driven by that dollar strength. So it is following that pattern, right? And we are seeing that continuation of that trend. Every time it touches, almost every time it touches this level, it has that big bounce to the upside. So I'm looking for this to continue up. Okay, so US Swiss franc, buy above 9010. Stop loss was 30. You could do 20. I think it might be a little bit risky. Maybe 25 at the minimum. And then 50 to the upside. There we go. 25 and 50. Okay. Bollinger Bands, are they default settings? Okay, so they are default settings. So these are the default settings. What I have on my MT4, I don't use it here just because it's super messy. It would be super messy for you guys. Is that on the other one, I do apply it as a 1 standard deviation. So I do have a 1 and 2 standard deviation. So whenever it's in between the 1 and 2 standard deviation like that, when it's trapped in the middle, then I'll be looking for that trending scenario. I'll be looking to scalp it down or to hold my trade to the downside. So that's how I would have it. But you probably noticed that it's super messy on the charts right now. So for all intensive purposes, in terms of analysis, I use it as just on a 2 standard deviation is really to tell me when it's too late to enter a trade or when it's time to get out of a trade, because it's likely to retrace. Okay, good question there, Kelvin. Diana, what's EF? What's EF? Let me know what's EF. I'm not sure on that. Then US CAD didn't come down and bounce where we expected. In fact, it's pushing up right now. Okay, so I'll take that away. We do have a major high here. No, not a major high, a high there. On the 15th that we saw, and it retraced back down. So unless it breaks beyond this point, then I would anticipate some upside, but I would say that probably not. The longer term inflation have not drifted away from target. That's fine. I would like to see what happens on the US CAD at 1.3570. Right, if it breaks if it breaks past 1.3570 because of that dollar strength, 3580, take profit 60 pips. Stop loss could be very tight at 20 to 30 pips. Right, you could do a 20 to 30 pips to the upside if it breaks past that previous high there on the dollar CAD or the loonie. Euro Swiss franc. Okay, I'll do that shortly. Yeah, I think dollar pushing up. I think that with the way it's pushing, I wouldn't rule out the likelihood that it could do that. Right, so in fact, I don't think it will retrace that much. I think it would do this, bounce back down, and do that. Okay. So US CAD 1.3580, 30 pip stop loss, 60 pip take profit. We're looking to buy here 1.3580, stop loss 30, take profit 60. Kubu, what do you mean which currency pair? Let me know what do you mean which currency pair. Okay, there we have it. Then, am I missing anybody's questions? Let me see. We did pound yen, we did Aussie yen, CAD yen. So Jamil's asking for CAD yen. There we go. CAD yen, interesting. I like that it's formed a little bit of a double top at that level, just below that 103 level. Alright, I like that it's formed a bit of a double top there. Actually a very good spot there. Does need to break below this point before we could see more downside. So not ready to sell right now. Take that away. Take that away. I think that's reasonable. I think we could see this move on the... See, what's interesting, why I'm hesitating a little bit is because if we're looking for this 60 pips to the downside, tight stop 30 pips or 1 to 2 to the downside, but we are, so that's my view on the CAD yen, right, to the downside. I think the risk of this is that we are looking at the US yen possibly pushing up, right, possibly pushing to the upside. So anticipating the pound yen to retrace, the euro yen to retrace, the Aussie yen to retrace. Pretty much everything against the yen looks like it could have that big downside potential. If that does happen, then despite the dollar strength, it's likely to pull the US yen down. Right, so I think that the Aussie dropping, the euro dropping could drag all this down. The CAD could drag the CAD yen down as well, but that would mean that we might see limited upside potential on the dollar yen, or we might see it being conflicted a little bit there, right? So it might just push up a little bit, trade back down before pushing back up. So something to be careful of. You don't want to be doing the yen, the US yen, buying it up and then thinking that the CAD yen or the Aussie yen or the pound yen is going to drop. I think that one of it is going to end up losing. It's not going to both work out in the same direction, or unlikely they will both work out in the same direction. Customized indicators, yours is what I like to work with. Thank you. I'm still trying to figure out how to get, not figure out, trying to get you guys the indicators, so just stay tuned for that. And then for MC, because I missed this out yesterday, that one. All right, so I was looking at this because so the US dollar Indian rupee is not a pair that I trade a lot on, well, not at all actually. I don't look at it. I didn't look at it on the H1 time frame. I was looking at this on the H4. Big strong resistance at 81.60, big strong resistance at 83, big strong support at 81.60, and you can see that this resistance level holds very strong. Apart from the one breach in October last year, it has been holding quite strong. So this was one reason why I wanted to revisit this, is that it is approaching that resistance level, that previous top there in the mid of March. I do think that this is on H4 time frame as well. You know, there looks like, and I don't know a lot of the fundamentals behind this, so purely a technical view, it looks like we could see a big retrace back into that support, just from the way of how prices has been moving. Okay, with that, then I would say that, you know, you could go for an aggressive one at this point, or a safer entry at below 8260 for that big downside. That would also be driven by that dollar strength pulling this down. Okay, so hope I answered your question there, MC, on the US dollar Indian rupee. And then the euro, I haven't done gold as well, forgot about that. And the euro CHF on the H1 time frame. Very interesting. Does need to break past this level with very good upside potential, but we are anticipating that euro dollar weakness. We're anticipating some level of euro dollar weakness, so that could push this down. Did I add this in? Let me just put this in first. Okay, so we are looking at the euro dollar pushing to down. In fact, it was a very nice trade. Anyone got into the euro dollar, let me know. Thanks for that, Ayakami. Alright, so yeah, that is pushing down. So we are looking at the euro dollar pushing to the downside. US Swiss franc pushing up, so that Swiss franc weakness could lead to the euro Swiss franc. I think I'm still looking at the downside potential because of that euro weakness. So, but it's just reacting at this level right now. I'm conflicted. to put it super simply, is I'm conflicted. Looking at it, I think that there is opportunity for this to bounce quite strongly, but based on the intercorrelation, I would say that it does show that downside potential. Very nice, JNB, very nice. I'm missing a trade I wanted to get into that trade too. Right, so could be looking at that to the downside on the euro Swiss. It's not big moves on the euro Swiss franc. It's only about 20-30 pip move to the downside, 15 pip stop loss. Okay. What do you think yen will be pulled back or not? US yen, I'm looking for that upward push. That dollar strength seems to be pushing it up, pulling it up. It's just being a bit conflicted, or going to be a bit slow and choppy because of the other currency pairs against the yen, but I'm still looking for that upward move. Right, so also for Ben, I think that, I think we could see 139. If it breaks above 139, we could see it get to about 140. So still looking for that upward push on the US yen. Okay, and as we are into the new hour, Kiwi dollar trading down, working quite nicely. Again, if any of you get into any trades, do let me know. Either put it into the chat here or put it into the Discord channel. So the Kiwi dollar moving very nicely, Aussie dollar trading down. With the way it's moving, I'm not sure that I want to see what happens here. Okay, US yen hesitating a little bit, but still looking for the upside. Pound dollar did not retrace as we expected. Could trade down, but I think that it's maybe what you want to do instead will be to look for it to break that support. If it does break that support, and then maybe trade down to the next level at 1.2280. Alright, so pound dollar could have, I think that this current move might not have enough meat in it to sell down because it didn't retrace. You could be looking to sell down 1.2340, then stop loss 30 pips, take profit 60 pips to the downside there on the pound dollar. Euro dollar trading very nicely for those of you who are in it. Fantastic. Yep, works very nicely. I'll be happy with, you can send me some donations this way. Then US Swiss franc is trading up as well, so really driven by that dollar strength. And then Ola is on a US CAD on a loonie. Reasonable to buy it up. It is taking on a little bit of a risk because we're looking for a reaction at this high. But I think if you got in early, that's reasonable. Make a decision at that point. If it looks strong, might continue pushing up, but you might be able to just close out at that point if it does retrace as well. So just a little bit early there. And then on to gold. Right, expected to bounce a little bit. It broke below. Now at that equal low, right, at this equal low point, dollar strength is likely to push this down. So I'll take this away. I think that it's likely that we're going to see it come down to test 1936, right? Below 1953, then it's going to signal some confirmation for it to get to 1936. There we go. Below 1953 could drop to 1936. Alrighty. Stocking USD CHF. Well, that makes one. Not something I stock often. Alright, so yeah, dollar pushing up quite nicely. Okay. Any further questions? I want to get into some trades. I am toying. Maybe somebody, if you're in the Discord channel, let me know. I'm toying with the idea of just turning on the stream and just letting it run as, once I'm in office, I'll just leave it running. I'm just thinking of how to work around that. So if you have any ideas, do let me know. We could end up having a, instead of a 1 hour session, it will be a full-on 12-hour session, 10 to 12 hour session. So still thinking of how to get that sorted. Okay, so with that, please remember, help me out, click that like button, click that subscribe button on YouTube if you haven't already. If you're on any other platform, do join us on the Discord channel, let me know or say hi. join the Discord channel, and I hope you trade well, trade safe. Let's see you on the Discord channel. Let's have a chat there. Okay, so until tomorrow, 3 p.m. GMT plus 8. See you. Bye bye.